Elliott Forrest, and welcome once again to another Artist Check-In. Today we are checking in with one of the world's great cellists, Jan Vogler. Great to see you again.
Hi, Elliott.
You have a rather unusual concert coming up on February 17th at Carnegie Hall. It's a little bit different in that it's you and this young poet that we came to know during Joe Biden's inauguration, the incredible Amanda Gorman. What is the show? What's going to happen?
Well, I think we do both what we are familiar with, but the new thing is the collaborations. And Amanda, I think her poetry, she is so incredibly contemporary with the content and also so fascinating that I was, like many people, mesmerized when I saw her on the inauguration. And later, because I love poetry, started reading her poems and reading her articles and following what she all her activities around protesting against book bans. And so I was very fascinated, and I thought, like, maybe we can collaborate and put her wonderful contemporary poetry against Bach's immortal music, and perhaps find a way to benefit both, putting things in perspective in history, and at the same time get Bach in a new light. So I'm very excited that we are both in our field at the same time. We are stepping slightly outside our comfort zone and trying to maybe discover new inspirations, which is always so important for every artist, and also reach possibly new audiences for both of us. So some music audiences for the poems, and some poetry audiences, and Amanda's audiences for the classical music.
So will it be that you will play and then she'll do a poem, or are you going to do them at the same time? How will it work?
Mostly first separate. It's actually already pretty, for purists, it's already a step, because her poems will be embedded in the suite. So Bach suites always start with a prelude, and then come 5 dance movements. And right after the prelude, Amanda will read her first poem. And I'm sure I will play differently once I hear her with her incredible presence next to me. And I will play my Allemande and Courante differently. And around the Sarabande, we are not quite decided whether before or after the Sarabande will be another poem. So the insertion of the poem in the suite already, I think, will be quite magical, because it will give the poem music as a frame, and it will give me a totally different perspective. And I won't be alone with the suites anymore, which in a way I'm so used to, but I'm so excited to go on the stage with Bach suites and have a partner.
If I remember the story right, Jan, I mean, so much of Bach's music we've had since Bach wrote it, but not the cello suites. They were lost for a long time. If I remember the story, Pablo Casals discovered them. Is that right?
Correct. And he found them in a music store and studied them for more than 10 years before he started playing them. And he made them so well known that we can say today that Bach's cello suites are some of the most well known classical music in general. The first prelude of the first suite is commonly discussed as being maybe one of the absolute most popular classical pieces. And when I go to school and I play for children, I often ask, I said, can you be please honest? I play the piece, and then raise your hand if you have heard the piece before. And often it's really 100% of the kids, school kids, who would raise their hand and say, yes, we have heard this before, which is quite amazing. So it's, I think they came a long way. When Bach composed them, I think it was a random idea to compose something for cello solo, and then they were forgotten and rediscovered by the great Spanish cellist and also fighter for peace, Pablo Casals. And I think he did a great service to all cellists of all time. And we now live with these pieces as if they would have always been there. But it's really true that he did the big step.
How did you meet Amanda Gorman? Did one of you reach out to the other for this project, or like Bill Murray, did you just bump into her on an airplane?
Was different, but Bill was really chance meeting. He tapped on my cello and he asked me, what are you going to do with the big box when we come to the plane? And then when I came to the plane, I happened to really literally sit next to him. So that was a big kind of accidental or whatever fortune meeting. And we became friends. And when we started working together, we were already friends for 2 years. With Amanda, it's different. I was fascinated because I grew up with poetry in East Germany and East Berlin. It's amazing how she can convey the presence and the future, I think, even with her poetry. So it was me who was so fascinated and a little bit starstruck by her presence that I went to a reading she did here of her new book at a symphony space in my neighborhood here in New York, and met her backstage. And she was fascinated with the history of Bach's music and also a little bit of my cello, which from the same time. And her what she basically said was she feels it's touching something timeless. So I thought, okay, we have some mutual fascination for what we do, and I think that's always a great point to start. And again, I'm mostly excited about the meeting of history and future, because for me, Amanda is really the future of America, and she represents the new generation, the generation of my kids, basically of my daughters, which is really exciting for me to be in dialogue with artistically.
Is Amanda Gorman writing new poems for this event at Carnegie Hall, or will she be using things she's written already?
She asked for the freedom to decide about that even in the context of the week when we perform, because I think she really wants to feel out in which what's very current at this moment. And I happily agreed. I said, we'll just define the spaces for you and then talk during the rehearsal, maybe the 2 days before. We are doing a TV appearance two days before in New York City, so we'll be together, and then we can maybe decide which poems she feels she wants to present and where they fit best.
We mentioned your project earlier with Bill Murray. That was the last time I saw you in person. What is it about sort of mixing these things up with unusual songs and spoken word that makes you want to sort of mix up the concert experience? Is it that freshness, that spontaneity that you just mentioned? Is that part of it?
I feel that's something the audiences are asking us now, to be more versatile, have a broader spectrum, be a mirror of our changing society and our wonderfully changing society in some sense. Of course, we have challenges, as we all know, but we have also, I see it through my kids' eyes, we have so much modernization to do in our societies. And I find if we can reflect that in our programming, that's something I become very passionate about. And I must say that's something I've worked probably the most for. And the other part is almost a little bit more passive, where I'm very happy to accept, to collaborate, but really what I'm very excited about is concerts like this with Amanda Gorman, where I hope always for new inspiration, for a change in our classical music world without being unhappy with it, but just want to inspire some new situations. And I think if we can do that, that's something makes me beyond happy.
After Carnegie Hall, you're off to Germany for a series of concerts. I see on the bill that you'll be playing Schindler's List. I don't know that I've ever heard that for cello. Is that a special arrangement for you?
Yeah, I'm basically playing the violin arrangement just an octave lower, and I always loved this melody. And I must say, there's so many factors coming in why I feel excited to play this year. I think there are some serious implications, as we all know, and there are some other implications. When I came to America, I was so fascinated to meet the generation of the great immigrants here in America who built the cultural life, or let's say who made this glorious cultural life here in America. And I just came back from a trip to the West Coast, where I had the great pleasure to stay and play at the Thomas Mann House. So Thomas Mann, the great German author, living in LA, and in the neighborhood is still the son of Schoenberg living, of Arnold Schoenberg, with his wife, who her father was the composer Zeisel, a German composer, also immigrated. Immigrants who came from Europe had escaped the disasters in Europe and in Germany to come to America. And I think playing that melody, there's a lot of these things coming together. And I hope that the audience, maybe I can convey some of that to the audience, but I'm extremely fascinated by the story, by the music, by the implications that it might have in our time to play this piece.
I too am very connected to that. I'm only second generation in this country, very typical. My family, Jewish immigrants coming through Ellis Island at the turn of the last century. My parents were the first in my family born in this country, and then me. So I love that connection, and the story behind John Williams writing Schindler's List, where Steven Spielberg really wanted Williams. Williams didn't think he was the right composer for it for all sorts of reasons, but what he came up with was timeless. I look forward to hearing. Have you recorded that yet for cello?
No, not yet.
Yeah, I'd love to hear that. You have this concert coming up at Carnegie Hall. Does it ever get old to play Carnegie?
No, it's always an incredible challenge. I don't know what it is with this room. You get there on stage and it elevates you, and that's why I prepare usually rather ridiculously hard for Carnegie concerts, because I feel there's something in the air that breathes quality and breathes challenge. And I'm very excited because I don't think it happens so often that one hears a cello with suites at this fantastic hall. At the same time, I'm aware that I have to tell the story to a pretty large audience, which will be a wonderful challenge for me.
Jan Vogler, a cellist, playing at Carnegie Hall on February 17th, along with the young poet Amanda Gorman. Jan, always great to see you. Thanks for doing this.
Great to see you, Elliott. Thank you so much. And